The 1970s was a decade of great change where society began to consider a better future for the next generations. There are several similarities between the 21st century and the 1970s, and the world would probably not be the same if it weren't for the changes that were made. The subject of my interviewer was my mom, who attended high school during the 1970s in Coshocton, Ohio. From my interview with her, I'm going to discuss some of the similarities and differences in the way she grew up versus how kids are growing up today, as well as some of the social, political, and historical trends that were present during the 70s. One of the main differences between the 1970s and present day is technology. Cell phones, tablets, and Netflix weren't really a thing back then, so what did people do to pass the time? It seems that in the 70s, spending time with friends was very important and quite popular for especially the teenagers to do in their free time. Cruising, as my mom called it, was something she would do on Friday and Saturday nights with friends where they would just drive up and down the streets. And they would also play fun outdoor games such as Chinese jump rope or flashlight tag. And schooling has also changed quite a bit over the last few decades. My mother mentioned that kids have much more pressure put on them today than what they did in the 70s. For example, she had attended a private kindergarten school since at the time not a lot of kids went to kindergarten. In these days, though, almost all kids are expected to attend some form of preschool, and oftentimes they already know how to read before they even begin their schooling. And so also a lot of emphasis, probably too much emphasis, is put on students testing in the school districts today, that they don't really get the chance to be kids like they used to be. And the 1970s were also full of many significant events. Civil rights was a huge topic throughout this decade. Gender equality improved immensely, and women began working outside the home more, opposed to always having that domestic housewife responsibility all of the time. And my mom's mother, my grandmother, she was already challenging these gender role stereotypes, and she had had a job as a teacher for quite some time before this. And my mom also remembers Title IX being passed, and this gave girls equal opportunities as boys to play sports. So she was able to play sports such as volleyball, basketball, and tennis throughout her high school career, and girls were able to participate in these kind of things without feeling like they should be held back because they, for some reason, don't have the equal opportunities to do such things that they might be talented or stuff that they want to do. And she also discussed with me the effects of the national energy crisis during the 70s. And because of the shortage of energy, there was a huge shortage of petroleum. Her school district only allowed students to attend school one time a week in the winter in order to save, in an attempt to save energy. And that would otherwise be used for heat. And a lot of the 70s, people began to become more aware of a lot of the effects they're having on the environment. And so recycling also became a very popular part, and that gained a lot of attention. So as you can see, the 70s influenced a lot of change, and people really began to stand up for their beliefs. If it weren't for the 1970s, the world we live in now would be a much different place. Technology has evolved immensely throughout the last 30 or 40 years, but maybe not everything has changed for the better. The 70s era was a time when people enjoyed simply being together and everything was laid back. But the 70s also gave people a voice to speak out for what they believe in. This resulted in leaps and bounds in the gender equality. What the 70s brought to us was spunk, fearlessness, and initiative for a better future.